Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Voice of Youth, a brand new show presented to you by Hidayat Television Network Birmingham Studios. I'm your host Ali Mohsin Hashmi. This program is presented to you on Saturday and Sunday between the hours of 5 and 6. Saturday program is usually live and Sunday show is always recorded. So for the viewers who are actually watching us for the first time today, we welcome you to the show and we thank you for tuning in. Voice of Youth is a show that's purely designed to highlight the issues of our youth of today's day and age, the issues that our youth are facing on a wider society level and inter-community level. Those issues are now becoming one of the major concerns of our development and our growth. It is also playing an important part in our coming youth, or I should say the youth in line. So this is something which really now comes down to how we're going to highlight those issues, address those issues, because there is external pressure, there is internal pressure, and also the means and the resources are ever so dry, and they are drying up as the days go by. So the issues that our youth are facing in today's day and age are associated with education, underachievement, education on grassroots level, higher education, crime rate, unemployment, lack of opportunity, and also social crimes, i.e. drug use and drug mafia. These are the issues that we'll be talking about on a high level. We talked about briefly in the first two episodes, we talked about matrimonial affairs. What drives the matrimonial pressure that comes from our parents, peer pressure, what causes that, and what is our position today? What are the challenges that we face when we cover these issues? And therefore we will, as always, we have our lovely panelists who joined us in the previous episodes, and they are here with us today. First of all, on my left is our sister Sayyida Quratulain Zaidi, who is a Youth and Community Development Manager working within the age group of 13 to 15, has been working in the community for past 7 to 10 years and have worked on various projects, an active social worker who has added value to the community for past 7 to 10 years. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyida Quratulain. Welcome to the show and thank you for sparing valuable time for us again.
Thank you for having me.
Right next to Sayyida Quratulain, we have our sister Sayyida Amina Bukhari, who does not require any introduction, a senior academic analyst and also working for the Birmingham Chamber of Commerce. One of the major projects that she's working on is Acorn Primary School, which is a project for underachieving, working in the Birmingham vicinity. Currently placed the bid, and hopefully there is a strong team that works alongside Amina. Amina has been with us for previous episodes. Does not require an introduction. You must have seen her on various seminars, youth forums and various platforms. Amina, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for once again giving us time and being part of the show. You have always given us your valued opinion. We talked about various issues yesterday, where we talked about unemployment, and in particular we talked about education on grassroots and higher education. We had some very strong statistics where we discussed students who actually get to GCSEs. So there was a clear divide of students who are under 16 and getting to GCSEs. What happens to them when they actually appear in GCSE results? When the results come, what sort of outcomes, and that divides those GCSE students into two further divisions. Now, for the benefit of the people who actually didn't watch the show yesterday, we had a very useful debate and very interesting stats came out. So students, Asians in particular, we actually discussed that Asians who actually get to GCSE level, they are underachieving by far. So the most interesting stat where we finished the show, and that was the note where we finished the show, was that was 69% of the students who actually obtain grade A to C in GCSEs, their parents are actually in management positions. They are professionals like doctors, engineers, teachers, IT professionals, barristers and lawyers. But students who actually come from the families where either one or both parents are in manual labour, for example, they are mechanic, They into the profession of possibly painting, decorating, they carpenter, or any form of manual labor, is actually the divide where only 36% of those children who's got parents who are in manual labor manage to get grade A to C in their GCSEs. That is a shocking result, and I think this is where we would start our conversation today. So we discussed yesterday that the reason why the A to C 5 GCSEs is 69% in those because parents are educated or deemed to be educated and professionals, and 36% who actually manage to get A to C are the ones whose parents are in manual labour, for example, taxi driving, or which I think, if you look on the wider society, in our community, majority of us are in manual labour. So majority is becoming minority when it comes to getting A to C in their GCSEs, and then minority becoming majority when it comes to grades between A to C. What drives this?
I think the parents who are in manual jobs, if you look at them and the opportunities they had or they didn't have, influences why they're in manual jobs now. Like, you've had people who come to this country for the sheer ethos of working and for financially benefiting themselves. But once they had kids, I think they were putting more emphasis on the children rather than their own development and their own personal capabilities of what they could do. I think a lot of people in manual jobs have the intelligence. They're no different or no lower than people in doctors or your teachers or your lawyers in our community.
Or maybe of higher IQ.
Higher. But because of the lack of opportunities they've had, or different factors play a big part on why they are where they are. That doesn't mean to say their children are going to be manual. I'm come from my parents. My mum doesn't work. My dad's in a manual job. Mashallah, all 5 of us have got all degrees. Now we come from that. Are we that 36% who?
Well, from what you're saying, yes, you sit in the bracket of 36% where children come from parents who are actually in manual labour. And I've got a couple of examples in my family where, mother is a housewife and then father is a fruit merchant selling fruits in the Sunday market. And now their daughter is, a teacher after graduating from Oxford, is a teacher at King's College London. One of the son is working as a senior barrister for one of the royal family in Middle East, and one of the son is a doctor. This is basically what we're talking about. I've got another example where one son is working for a very senior position in police, and the other brother is working as a barrister, and then father was a taxi driver. So these are the stats, and I think our working class parents should take great pride in sharing this and in hearing this as well, that we do have a degree, or I should say a percentage of parents who are very hardworking. They're fruit merchants, they're taxi drivers. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being in manual labour or in that profession where it does not require you to be traditionally or qualified or traditionally or be obtaining university qualification. You can be, in manual labour and still have your children, bring about or brought up in a way that they actually add value to the community on very high positions. So not to say this needs to happen more often, not 36%. Why 36% of the students from that area are managing to get A to C in their GCSEs? Amina, why not more?
Why not more? I think it's a number of reasons. It could be because of poor schooling. It could be because of the lack of support from the parents. It could be the children themselves, or it could be deprivation. If those parents are working and they're on a low wage and they're working long hours, then they don't have the time to spend with their children, to help them to learn, to do the homework, to follow up, to take them to the library or take them on outward bound activities, things which are going to get them to understand or give them a wider understanding of the world around them. Because the schools can only do so much.
I think that takes us back to our first episode. That there is help available for the parents. And they need to actually highlight the fact that they need help. You don't get help if you don't ask for it. how do we identify, or how do they identify, I mean, for the benefit of the parents who are watching, how do they identify that the child needs a degree of help?
Well, from the very beginning, get involved with the child's education in school, go to parents' evenings, speak to the teacher, look at their book bags and get them to read every night. Find out about the topics that they are learning in the school, termly topics, half-termly topics, and help them. Get them to become researchers themselves. Get them to do pre-learning before they actually do the lessons in the classroom, so that they can excel when they go into the classroom, and then the teacher can put them in the higher tier group. That could be one. The other thing is that the teachers also need to support those parents, or send them little reminders that if they're not going to turn up on parents' evening, try and catch them in the playground.
So this responsibility sits with the school?
Yes, responsibilities, as I say, sits with the school and with the parents and with the child themselves. But I mean, children are minors. I mean, they will
do whatever they can get away with.
Yes, exactly.
It's the nature. Yes, they will explore their options.
Yeah. But it's not all about academic learning and schooling. It's also about good discipline and good practice. And this good discipline comes from getting to school on time, not being late.
So,
or not being absent.
The punctuality.
Yes, I mean, if sometimes, you know, because we come from a hot climate, if a child is sneezing, oh, they're going to catch a cold, let's not send them to school today.
Right.
It's raining.
So you're referring to the parents, or I mean, most of us, we've literally just come from a different country, or our parents have come from a different country, and then they're relatively hotter than Britain. So they feel their child sneezing in the morning first thing, which is pretty normal for children to do anyway, in cold anyway. So they would feel that they need to call in sick. And that affects. Right, so going back to your point that you raised, that they need to engage with the teachers, parents meetings, and, you know, parents evenings, and you know, find out about the progress. Now, for those parents, you know, my brothers and sisters and uncles and aunties who are watching right now, and they unfortunately have got the language barrier, and also in some cases, and before I choose my words very carefully, I've got some statistics. 44% of adult Bangladeshis are illiterate, and 32% of Pakistanis are actually, they've got no qualification, they can't read and write. Now, after giving this, and this is actually something that comes from Home Office, so this is a figure, 44% for Bangladeshi brothers and sisters who are actually senior parents, and 32% Pakistani. So now I pose the question again: what happens to those parents when they've got the language barrier? They're hesitant because clearly they would be shy that, you know, when they go to school, you know, an English-speaking teacher would be saying to them, right, okay, Mr. ABC, I'm going to talk to you about your child. Now, Mr. ABC, the father or mother, not going to be able to understand. How do we cover that barrier?
They might not be able to read or write, but surely they can speak.
What, and the English language?
No, speak their home language. And the biggest qualification they are that they are caring parents, and they want to do good for their children. So a parent is a mother and a father, and especially a mother is going to break all the barriers to enable her child to get an education if she wishes to do so.
Fantastic.
So she can speak. In a lot of the schools, we've got teachers who are who are bilingual.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been teaching for over 20 years, and there are lots of, since I qualified, lots more teachers have come in who are from Pakistan.
Can you hold a conversation in Urdu or Punjabi?
Yes, I can. I always have a conversation with, and I make a special effort to speak to my parents in Urdu and Punjabi. And quite often, when I wanted them to visit places of other religious denominations, they wouldn't want to send their children to the school trips, say for example to Sikh Gurdwara, but if I went and spoke to them, and they would always say, okay, Ms. Bukhari, because you're saying and you'll be with them, then we will send our children. So it's that empathy. So we have got a lot of teachers who are bilingual, who are caring, who will help. And also parents can make or take part in the parents' forums, and joint parent forums for the school.
Or the learning goes back to parents. I mean, they can start learning English language as well, because they know that it's going to form part of their growing up and, you know, upbringing of the child, and it may add value. So message goes back to our parents who are watching.
Can I just add also not just the English language, because even if they speak the home language, they can still teach them their child an education, even through the home language.
The values.
And the values, and also if they open a book, then they can follow the story in their home language, because research has shown, as I said last time, that if you are bilingual, you've got an advantage.
What's that advantage?
Because you can think in 2 domains.
Right, okay.
You can think in Urdu and Punjabi, and you can think in English also, and it allows you to think and learn language at a higher academic level after some time. That's one thing. And also the other mums and dads, they're also speak the same language. You can get help from them, or you can set up support parent forums, or also ask for support to go to the teacher and speak. And you've got the translators, and also become governors.
Kursline, what do you think? Do you not think that, and this is me thinking purely from my community's point of view, or our community's point of view, isn't there a stigma attached to a parent who, first of all, they already don't speak English, and they've been called various names by people who are born here, and there is a label attached to them. Now, they already know that within their community, within their family demographics, there is a degree of dismay for them being here. We know that, and we can't deny it. And certain words like freshies, for example, these are the words. And because we are, you know, a better community, we can highlight these issues because we are grown up about it. And if we don't talk about these issues, we won't resolve them. So parents who actually sit in that bracket where they are tagged with various names, and now, and that's not from their children, obviously, that's from their peers and relatives. And when they go to school, and a young teacher, we won't expect a teacher to be of that, you know, of that particular behavior, but that particular individual who's already been called various names and now goes to school for the betterment of the child, and then they can't speak. Do you think they already have that impression that, goodness me, I can't speak, she's going to talk to me in English, and if I come across that lady who is, you know, Asian, but she was born here, she would choose not to speak to me in my language because she wants to prove a point to me or something?
Yes and no.
Do you think that's just hot air?
No, I think that's...
Or there's substance to it at all?
There's on covert, we call it, I'll call it racism, you know, that is covert, undercover racism, you know, and that impacts on, you can see that in children, the children who come from parents who are not educated or can't speak English, and 90% of mothers pick the child up from school compared to the dads, you know, at 3:30. You know, the parents, the teachers know which parents are literate or not, from normal "hi, you're okay" sort of chit-chat conversation, and I think that the teachers already undermine the child's intelligence by the way they perceive the parents.
So I choose. We're being very careful. So some teachers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some teachers. You know, I have experienced that some teachers
may treat them differently.
And not push them as they would their peers because of the lack of support they think they'll get at home because the parents are not educated to that same part.
Right.
You know, and that, but on the other hand, you get some teachers like yourself who do go the extra mile
and then speak to them and make them feel at comfort and welcome.
And, and even go to say that after school homework, I'll teach you and your child together, or if you, and you know, that's support service.
Now this is that sensitive that parents actually need to stop thinking about themselves and think about the child and think, you know what, I don't care what you're going to think about me, it's about my child. You're going to tell me up until I understand. Is that not what the parents' approach should be? वो बहन भाई जो इंग्लिश नहीं बोलते, अगर आपका बच्चा पढ़ रहा है स्कूल में तो आपको चाहिए कि आप अपने टीचर्स के साथ जाकर डिमांड करें कि कोई ऐसा बंदा अपॉइंट किया जाए जो आपके साथ आपकी लैंग्वेज में बात कर सकता है. So this is for the parents who don't speak English. They have their children in school. They need to go to school and then ask school to give them or nominate somebody who can speak their language for the parents' evenings.
I would say.
Do you think they can do that?
The schools go a long way to make sure that every child does matter for schools.
Absolutely.
And if they get it wrong, it's not they're not getting it wrong on purpose. It's because they haven't really addressed the issue in the way that they know how. So they're probably seeking for help. I don't think that any teacher would actually not bother. Yes, we have got parents who don't know how to access the education, and because they don't know, the teachers might not be so forthcoming, because they've got a class of 30 and they've got these the ones that they're focusing on, and if a parent is reluctant to come in and ask for help, then they're not going to go chasing them. There might be some teachers who do that. As you were saying, that if you can't speak the language, it's fine. If you can't speak the language, आप अपनी ज़बान में जाकर बात करें, पेरेंट्स के टीचर्स के साथ बात करें, हेड टीचर्स के साथ बात करें, सैनिकों के साथ बात करें, उनको बताएं कि देखें मेरे बच्चे ने रीडिंग बुक नहीं लाया, या मेरे बच्चे ने होमवर्क नहीं दिया, ये इस होमवर्क के साथ मैं ये कैसे करूं, या इसकी पी किट किस दिन के लिए लेकर आनी है. Because also
these things do matter.
It's not just what happens in the classroom, it's the whole child, the whole environment, getting to school on time, attendance, PE, taking part in the drama, in the lessons, we often say that, oh, it's okay, they're only going to play in reception, they can miss a day, we'll stay at home. But it's so important. They are learning the social skills that they are learning. They are developing those skills to enable them to learn to read and write. They're not playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might seem playing, but they're not playing.
So that I think that pretty much summarises that particular point, that how we can improve that 36% A to C's. And I think the responsibility lies with our students, children, as well as the parents. So what they need to do, inshallah, next year when we talk about, or anytime sooner when we do the census and we come across these figures will be improved. So we want to see an improvement in that particular area where parents in manual jobs have got their children and they're getting good grades between A's and C's in GCSEs. I'll refer you back to our conversation yesterday when we talked about university students. Now, moving on from 16 year of age group. Moving on to UCAS entry we talked about yesterday, we saw some shocking results. And those results were for the viewers, benefit of the viewers who actually didn't watch the show yesterday. Just for your benefit, UCAS applications, which is the body that monitors all the college leavers who actually wish to enter university system in the UK, UCAS has issued the stats. 222,000 applicants for the universities across the UK are from Indigenous and white community. Only 26,000 applications are from
Black Caribbean.
Black Caribbean. Yes, Afro-Caribbean brothers and sisters. So 26,000 Afro-Caribbean who actually apply for universities and actually make to the universities, and only 6,500 applications come from Pakistanis, and approximately 2,000 applications from Bangladeshi community. Whereas on the other hand, Indians are actually in the lead by 12,500. So these are the stats which were issued by Home Office or Department of Education, is it?
Department of Education, yeah.
Yeah, so the Department of Education issued these stats, 222,000 compared to 222,000, 6,500 and 2,000 are fractions. We talked about these students, only 6,500 students who are Pakistani apply for university. And Amina mentioned that majority of 6,500 are actually girls. So the boys aren't even applying for it. and we finished our program.
Fewer boys are applying.
Fewer boys are applying for universities, and more girls are actually applying for universities out of that 6.5. I mean, 6,500 is a small figure as it is. And if you further drill into it, the further divide is the majority is girls and minority are the boys. And you asked a very important question, and I asked that question back to you. 6,500 applicants who go to universities. What is everybody else doing? What is the rest of them are doing? So people who are actually applying for universities and going to universities, what is the rest of the youth doing who are not going to universities?
That's a very good question. First of all, with the 6,500, I'd like to know the percentage of the population.
Yeah.
In comparison to the others, because we've got these figures and we don't know how many people there are from the Indian subcontinent or from the Pakistani subcontinent. Are there more Pakistanis in Britain than there are Indians?
That is correct, yes.
Yes, so if it is, then
Pakistanis form 51% of Asian community in the UK, and 19% are Bangladeshis and rest are Indians.
Right.
Which makes up a very small percentage is Bangladeshis, hence a very small number, 2,000. Pakistanis make up 51% of Asians, and then rest are Indians.
Sure.
Which means, you know, Indians being, you know, the middle minority, and they have almost double of university education. And I have further stats when they actually graduate. So we'll talk about the graduates as well, if you want me to give you the graduate figures as well. The graduates, university graduates, and degree holder who are achieving first-class degrees, 21% are Afro-Caribbeans, which is a great success. And on the same note, 21% of Indians who actually go to universities attain first-class degrees. Pakistanis are obtaining almost half of that, which is 12%. So exactly, I mean, 6,500 apply for universities, contrary to 12,500 for Indians. And then 21% Indians graduate in first-class degrees, and then 12% get, you know, first-class degrees for Pakistanis, and 7% Bangladeshis. So we class first class where 2-1 or first is a first-class degree. So do you think any relevance to what we talked about previously, 6,500? What is the rest of them doing?
Well, first of all, look, I'd like to say that these figures show that the Pakistani community isn't paying a lot of emphasis on education as much compared to the Indian and the Afro-Caribbean community. So if they were, then more youth would get through to higher education.
In communities, just to mention, I haven't got the population figure, but they only form part of 43% of the communities. So between Afro-Caribbeans, which includes Africans, and then Asians predominantly, which include Middle East as well. So they are 43% of that number, and 57% are the Asians. So if they are getting 43%, if they are 43% and they're obtaining these fantastic results,
I think, yes,
clearly there is something that we need to look at. So the question goes back to you: what is it that the rest of them are doing? The rest of Asians are doing, who are not going to universities? They're not going into skilled labour. Are they joining the job centre? Are they going into gangs? Are they going into crime? Are they going into drugs? What's happening with them? Do we have any explanation to that?
I think they've been neglected.
Okay.
I think they've been neglected.
By who?
By the community and the wider society.
Sounds like just an excuse.
It's not an excuse, but the reason why they've been neglected is because look at where they come from, the socio-economic where they come from, deprived area, therefore they've got a lack of opportunities.
We don't know that, because I haven't got any stats to prove that, you know, the crime that comes from, or you were sharing something, the blue collars and the areas, less privileged areas or deprived areas, I should say, as Home Office categorises them.
Can I add to that? I was reading up a study, and a large proportion of the minority communities stay in the inner city deprived areas because that's where their parents came, and they are reluctant to move away from that area to retain their religious and cultural heritage, and also because of some negativity once they did try to move away. So if we can safely assume that the large majority of the minority communities are living in inner city deprivation areas, and that's where your assumption's coming from, that they are neglected.
So they are neglected.
So if they're neglected, therefore they've got lack of opportunities, lack of anyone helping them, reaching out, giving them a helping hand, or lack of role models, lack of that additional support for them to actually qualify or enable to complete a UCAS form to get a degree. What young person doesn't want to go to university? What young person doesn't want to get a degree?
But I think that contradicts with the stats which we shared yesterday, that the activities between the age group of 16-year-olds is that in full-time education, 77% of Pakistanis are in full-time education.
Yes.
And 79% of Bangladeshis are in full-time education at the age of 16. So clearly they are on the right track. So they are not, or are we saying there is something else hidden behind?
They're probably following the track that is desired from them, but are they actually learning?
Okay, so...
Yeah, why are they there in higher education or learning to do A-levels when they haven't got the skills to do so?
Right, okay. How do you define that?
Well, because studies showed that between fewer minority pupils are getting grade A to C.
That is correct, yes.
So if we take that analysis and then they're staying on to do A-levels, but they are not going for higher education, then surely that the 2 years they spend in higher education, what are they doing?
That's right.
Right, so Kurathlain, can you share with us the stats for students who are actually, first of all, in 16-year-old activities, and can you give us our indigenous group as well?
Okay, full-time education, definitely...
At the age of 16,
At the age of 16, yeah. These main activities attained by 16-year-olds in 2002. Okay, the wider community, white young people, 69% of full-time education. So
they are, which group is that?
The ethnic group, right?
Is this the ethnic group or the
white young people?
White young people, or I should say indigenous majority, they are 69%.
Yeah, and then again, we're talking about the same group, 10% of them are attaining government support training. That is your apprenticeship training or some informal training.
So 10% of our indigenous majority is getting
government support training.
Okay, and what's happening with the community on our end?
The Pakistani community, 77% of 16-year-olds are in full-time education, and only 5% are attaining government support training.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're not trying to access the resources, Amina?
I think it's
probably, carry on.
I think it's young people's attitude. I think we got a lazy attitude to work life.
Are you trying to stereotype? Is that a very stereotypical view, or?
The way for my experience.
We are Asian, so we can actually be honest about it.
That's my experience. I think a lot of young people who come through my doors.
You work with them, 13 to 24 group. That's your area of expertise.
A lot of young people have the mentality, I want it now, I'm not going to work hard. Whereas your indigenous group or your black Caribbeans and even your refugee group who come through my doors have got the motivation, the desire to achieve something. Whereas Pakistani young people have got the attitude, well, I can't be asked attitude. And I think that stems from themselves rather than anyone else. So, yeah.
Right, okay. Well, there is another concern that it's a very defeatist attitude.
Well, I know that and you know that, but to drill it into the change, to support the young people and help them to change their mentality is...
Who decides that this particular attitude sits in line with what both of us thinking, or what wider?
It's you see, it's the society we live in.
That's right.
The society we live in a blame culture. We live in having things done for us.
Yeah.
And we're very good at pointing the finger, but we're not good at solving the problem.
But I mean, we've got stats, and these stats are telling us otherwise, because we keep saying that, you know, the society, because up until beginning of this show, I was under the impression, because I'm sure you're aware that I actually actively work with youth myself, so we are under the impression that youth are pretty neglected. And I'm sure youth feel the same way. I will take you back to the riots in Birmingham, Manchester, London, Tottenham. These are the riots where, when youth were arrested, the age group was between 12 to 21, and certain individuals from 21 to 32 were found as well, but they were the opportunists. So the majority was that age group. And every single one of them who was interviewed shared the view that they felt that they were being neglected. So they wanted to, you know, do a bit of boot stomping and, you know, prove a point. How is that attitude built up? Somebody who is 12 year age, how does that individual know that?
I think the government has a lot to say and answer for, because 4 years.
No, but you work with that age group.
4 years ago, in the summer holidays, I had 20,000 to work in a deprived area. £20,000 for the summer holidays. Went different places, went residential, everything.
Okay.
Last year, guess how much? 2,300.
£2,300 was given to you, where 20,000 was given 4 years ago.
That's right.
Where you were engaging with age group of 13 to...
over 2,000 young people with that 20,000.
Right, okay, so that's not even a pound per person, is it?
So that crime rate went down in the area. The youth offending service, we got praise from the police.
So you were, okay, so I think this is important. So you were looking after 2,000 young people for £20,000, which is not even £10 per person.
No.
Yeah.
But can I just say that we are going through austerity measures, and austerity has decided that £650 million will be pulled out of public spending, and out of which 400 and so thousand is youth-related projects, so community-related projects. Do you think that's a direct impact that they now want that money to be plugged back in?
When I had that 2,300, 500 last year, the crime rate went back up in the summer holidays.
No, but crime rate, as per the recent Home Office figures, the crime rate has fallen.
Depends what areas and what...
No. Nationally, the crime rate has fallen.
Well, antisocial behaviour then. Average. Yeah, well, I'm going for... Would that include antisocial behaviour?
As both, yes.
Yeah, okay, but...
Yeah, but let's, for a moment, let's just imagine that we haven't got any government money. Do we just forget about our youth?
No, exactly.
You know, why
parents,
again, this is what I'm saying, is that why are we pointing the finger? Why don't we try and solve the problem
ourselves
as a community?
But then we need the additional support from the majority government to help us.
Okay.
And for us to
so if this is exactly what what you're saying, and what these what is a bigger picture, and if this is how everybody perceives that, right, okay, because we're not getting money, the youth are now going to come out and do the riots. Now let me take you back to our Indian brothers and sisters. They've got 12,500 university graduates, and they've got less than 10% school dropout rate, whereas we're looking at 44% of Bangladeshis and 33% of Indians, of Pakistanis. And on a similar note, we've got 79% of Bangladeshis in full-time education at the age of 16, 77 of them are Pakistanis, whereas when you talk about first-class degree holders, we see ourselves at the bottom. So clearly, money from the government is not the issue. So if government is deciding that they're going to take the money back, and they're going to make the economy stronger, so that these youth who are now 12 to 18, when they are now in the practical world, 10 years down the line, government has sorted out their problems, and now they would enter into a better society. For example, if I'm a GCSE student, I want to be sure of the fact that when I graduate, I want to walk into a job. which is exactly what government is doing, hence the austerity measures. And I'm sure this is what the explanation is. I'm not defending government. I wish I could speak to somebody who could speak on behalf of government.
But that's also why the government has brought about these apprenticeship schemes to join the apprenticeship schemes, and yet our youth aren't going for the apprenticeship schemes. So it's not as if the government isn't doing anything. The government is doing something, and if the cutbacks have been made on funding, it's because maybe there's another reason behind how we can support the youth and what we could do. I just think that we need to look at, and I'm not talking about we as here now, but we as human beings, as a community, and every single one of us, whether we're a male or a female, young or old, or a child, we need to look at finding the solutions, not thinking about who did it, but why it happened and how we can make it better. If we take that attitude and take it forward, then I'm sure if I don't get the 20 out of 20 in my mental maths every Friday, and I need to look at, well, why can't, what happened, what went wrong? Did I not do my revision? Did I not practice hard enough? Didn't my mum support me, or whatever? And then try and make it better for the next time. This is the attitude we need to take, not just, oh well, either the government or the youth or the parents. It's not one thing.
It's different fingers.
We've got to look at 4 different things: the political climate, and the economic climate. We need to look at the social climate, and we also need to look at the technology around us.
Technology is evolving in the society.
The pest, and the political climate would be the government or the tax and the laws and the health, and the economic climate is money and funding and financial and the economy. It all has an
So if economy isn't strong enough to be able to fund these projects, as they have been up until they could, I think the austerity measure is defining this. But
the social factors are the parents, the community, the peers, the siblings, the surroundings, and those also have an impact. And the technology, as I said, it evolves because as our lives change.
Androids and apps.
As I said yesterday with
social media.
The social media, and I said yesterday with the that we are more affluent. We become more affluent. We've got all these gadgets, and we can use them to better ourselves as human beings. It's with the social media, we often get it's a phenomenon of the modern times, and we get parents, oh, Facebook is very bad. And it is to a degree. It's not good. However, it's how we use it, how we apply ourselves, and how we can. There are some wonderful groups on Facebook which deal with lots of social issues.
It's just like a matchbox in your hand. You can use it to burn the house, or you could use it to light your oven and then make nice food. So there are clearly 2 uses to it. We clearly, with the idea of this conversation and this debate and discussion, is not to drive it politically, but obviously pest analysis is important as well, which is you've done very nicely. We actually go back to our issues. I mean, on the community level issues. Let's ignore the fact that we are not being funded at the moment. We're still be a strong family. Excuse me. So we still be a strong family. We'll still have the same issues within our families, externally, internally, within our community. But I think as a community we need to think about what is happening in the outside world. We have to do the comparisons, and we have to match the pace. If we don't match the pace, this generation misses out, then we won't have any engineers, we won't have any doctors, we won't have any scientists.
You hit the nail on the spot. I think our community is in denial of the reality of what our young people are doing today, and I think the community got this not in my backyard attitude, like they're okay to criticise other communities and praise their own, but not analyse our community in depth like we are. And saying where the problem actually is. Okay, we've got the problem, let's together as a community find a solution. But I think we're in denial. I think, well, it's one of them, let's carry on. It's a denial. I think the community's in denial of the reality of the young people and the situation the youth of today are in.
Right.
And and in some sense, that therefore the young people are being neglected by the community.
Okay, well, let's just go back to what some stats that we've got in front of us. We've got this, education-wise, we've understood that our youth, or I should say, this pupil who are actually in schools, they're not actually getting GCSEs or right level or right grades. When they finish with school, either they end up in A levels the right way, which is a very small percentage, or they would try and get vocational courses, which is BTEC, H&D, or GNVQ level 7 up to level whatever, and then end up in university.
Right.
So there are two groups of people who have now ended up getting to universities. Now, university applicants are 6,500, which we talked about, that there is a divide for male, divide for female. But we haven't talked about that this 6,500
drop in the ocean
is literally a drop in the ocean, absolutely. But it also is made up of A-level students and students who've come from GNVQ and BTEC route as well. So when they both graduate, the graduates who've come from the traditional route find themselves placements, jobs, typically speaking, they would, and there would be the 12% of first-class degree holders as well, because prior to that they were the 36% of the A to Cs, and then prior to that they were the minority of those students who actually had parents who were.
Can I go back to the ones, other than the drop in the ocean, what about the ones who are not getting through? What we were asking, what are they doing?
Exactly.
And where are they ending up?
Probably NEETs, aren't they? They're not in education, training.
I think they're taking drugs. Are they taking gang crime? Are they taking a weapon? Are they taking knife? Are they getting into social wars?
Okay, some of them would go into jobs. And
what sort of jobs?
Anything such as, if they're not going into further education, then they could do a course to get onto the job ladder, such as a classroom assistant, for example,
or maybe they make up
any sort of admin job, marketing, or another route.
Maybe not even office job. I think that particular vast majority of the group, I think, would enter into manual labour.
Yes, or manual labour, or taxi driving. Yes, or building work.
Hence, their children would sit in the bracket of either 36% or 74% of no grades at all.
Okay. Sure. And then you've got some of them who haven't got jobs at all. Now, we were talking about the unemployment figures lowering. They've gone down now, haven't they?
Well, the unemployment figure has increased.
Unemployment figure has increased or decreased?
In our community has increased.
But nationally
it's reduced.
However, in the inner city parts of this city, it's where we've got large minority communities. It's the highest unemployment figures, 25%.
Midlands,
25%.
West Midlands got the highest unemployment.
But in
the region.
I'm not going to name certain areas, but in certain parts of the inner city parts, the unemployment is 25%. And that's where you've got the large Pakistani community residing. So if they are unemployed, if they haven't got jobs, if they're hanging around street corners, if they are bored, are they turning to crime? Are they turning to drugs? What are they doing? And what can we do about it?
We do have some drug stats as well in our community, and these stats actually come from Ministry of Health and also Home Office. Kuratlan, if you could share, in comparison to the way the study has come out, that there's Class A drug, Class B, and then Class A and B, and then cannabis. We will start from cannabis. So cannabis being most affordable, widely available, and our youth, because of the drug mafia, our youth have got easy access to cannabis. So, Kuratlan, can we have some stats on cannabis use?
From age between 16 to 19, 20% are cannabis users.
What the
Asian young people, there's 3.1% who are cannabis users.
Bear with me 1 second. So we've got age group of 16 to
19.
To 19.
That's generic.
So in the whole of UK, viewers, this is a very interesting fact. The whole of UK 16 to 18 age group, 16 to 19 age group, the members of youth, 20% of them, 1/5 of the population is taking cannabis. Does that surprise you?
Nope.
It doesn't surprise you
No.
because you work in that. Well, I'm truly shocked.
Well, if you go down, 3.1% of the cannabis users are Asian.
Right. Okay. So moving back to Asian community. So in the whole of UK, 20% of 16 to 19-year-old young men and women are taking cannabis, and within Asian community, 16 to 19 age group, 3.1% of our young kids are taking cannabis. That is absolutely disastrous. It's shocking. And I think it's a moment for us to think about the fact that I think this really solves the puzzle. And when we talk about GCSEs, because this is exactly when you finish your GCSE, and then take the traditional route of either going into the right way or getting it wrong. So 3.1%.
If you look at 3.1% of Asian youth who are doing cannabis,
Have you got further?
And then if you go back to the main activities 16-year-olds engaged to back in 2002, where we said that 77% of them of Pakistanis full-time education and 5% in government, added 9% are out of work. So you can imagine that 9%.
So 9% at that age have already signed themselves on for JSA.
Yep.
Right.
So,
okay.
And that would probably be them. I'm not stigmatising, but that 3.1% would be the majority of young people who are out of work at 16.
Right. Okay. Viewers, this is very interesting.
I wanted to give you some further statistics.
Yeah, please.
The under 18s on structural treatment for health, and these are drug-related health problems. Those which have been referred for treatment, 1% of them are British, and they referred through the GP. 9% are referred by themselves, so they go for treatment, and 39% of them are referred through the criminal justice system.
Right. What's that percentage?
39%.
So a very high percentage is not even considering getting help themselves. So they are actually identified by the system because they've been, the government, or I should say the police, has caught up. So when police arrest them, they identify that, right, okay, this young member of the community is taking drugs.
And out of those, in 2003, it was 6% were non-white, and 2008, 19% of those were non-white.
So when you say non-white, are you including Afro-Caribbeans as well?
Afro-Caribbean, but...
Have you got further divide into that?
No, we don't
What about
have
you,
any further.
Can you differentiate between the two in Asian? Have you got statistics to prove that Pakistani, Bangladeshi and Indians within that Asian divide, what is the percentage for them to do cannabis use?
I can bring some in next week. Yeah, I just got the stuff.
I do know that the Black Afro-Caribbean community seek help after the age of 35.
So they, okay, so our
we are
brothers
assuming
and
that these are the non-white would be Asians. Because we discounting the Black Afro-Caribbean community.
Right, okay, well that's worrying.
If you go down in the multicultural areas, which is mostly the most deprived areas, 8.0% are cannabis users, compared to your blue collar area, which is 6.2.
8%.
Yep.
And 6%. So I'm assuming 8 would be minority, and still that's a huge percentage. So 8% of our youth, regardless of the Bangladeshis, the Pakistanis.
I wouldn't say blue collar workers are necessarily all white.
Oh no.
Yeah, they could be. We could be classed as, because we live in, for example, a particular area, and I wouldn't want to name the area. So if we live in a particular area, then I would be living in a blue-collared area, and that area means that I could still take cannabis and I could still be Asian.
Yes.
So some of the Asians that we know who live in blue-collar areas, or I should say more affluent areas, they could be taking cannabis because of how their family demographics are. Well, these stats are pretty shocking. I think the result that we drive from this particular, we haven't got long to go. Viewers, if you are watching us, please do write to us. Our email address is VOY, and ideally I'd like to hear from our parents and our members of youth, because the issues right now started from education on the grassroots level, and then it progressed to age group up to 13 years of age, and their social demographics and networking skills and parents' involvement. Then it got to age 16, which is where we discover the most shocking figures. Our experts on the panel today shared some horrific results and some shocking studies which came to us in terms of full-time education in our Asian community, in particular Pakistani and Bangladeshi community, where we are in full-time education up to GCSEs levels, but we're not attaining the grades that we need to. On that note, I'd like to first of all thank Quratulain and Amina Bukhari. Your contribution today was extremely valuable, and the great work that you're doing for the community is indeed recognised. We thank you for being a valuable member of our community, and we're great to have you in the show and also as role models of our women of our community. Thank you very much for joining us today. And viewers, this program is purely designed to highlight these issues, because if you don't understand what your issues are, you won't be able to resolve them. And I think this is our responsibility, to improve on the ways that we've been living and also make our generation, our future generation, a better generation. And the only way we can do that is by identifying what our problems are, where those problems are, and how we can resolve those problems. Today we discussed how youth is being victimized, but if you actually look into stats, these stats tell us otherwise, so the responsibility goes back to our youth. If you are a member of youth between the age of 18 to 25 and would like to join us and sit next to us and talk to us and ask questions from our panelists, please do write to us. It's voy@hidayat.tv. If you are a member of youth and do have questions and concerns, or some study or some interesting incidents or affairs that you'd like to share with us, do write to us. We can only make this show a success if you do get in touch with us. All the people who have actually written to us, I'm sorry I couldn't read all the emails, but inshallah in the coming programs we will do that. Until next Saturday and Sunday, I would like to say my farewells and goodbyes. Look after yourself, enjoy Ramadan Mubarak and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounties throughout this month, and let's pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us a better community, better youth and a better nation. On that note, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.